everybody. Welcome back to another edition of Sportsbook Confidential. My name is John Sullivan, and I'm coming to you live from the FingerLakes1.com studios in Seneca Falls, New York. And this little show here is to help you learn and grow as a sports bettor. Sorry I started late today. Technical difficulties, but I hope they're behind us. And we're going to have an interesting show for you today. We are going to talk about privacy in sports betting, and there's two main facets I want to talk about. There's going to be the sportsbook wanting to know stuff about you as a bettor, and then as a bettor, how much do you share with other people about your betting picks and your general betting activities or whatever, and some interesting discussion to be had for sure. And then we're going to go into the Friday night Major League Baseball plays. I have my model picks. Show you, preview all the games and see how that all shakes out. And then we have CFL Week 2. Very exciting game last night between the Riders and the Red Blacks, 44-41. That was probably the easiest bet of the season, betting over on that game. The over-under was only 43.5. But hopefully we'll have some more winners for you this weekend. But before we get started with all of that, let's start by updating the bankroll. And we had a slightly winning week last week. We went 2-2-1. Starting bankroll is $592. We had the Yankees on the money line that lost. That was minus $20. And then we had the Brewers over, and that pushed. I think the over-under was 8. So no change there. The Rangers on the money line, that was a profit of $29. And then on Saturday, we had 2 picks on the BC Lions, minus 1 against the spread, and that was a loser, minus $20. And then we had the over in that game, which won, and that's plus $19. So if you do the math, it's a profit of $8. The new bankroll is $600. And dividing by 30, as we always do because we're selective sports bettors, our bet size remains at $20 going forward. So nice to see $600 territory. Hopefully we'll get back to where we started in time for the NFL and whatnot when it rolls around. So let's get into our sportsbook lesson, and we're going to talk about sportsbooks and privacy first off. Now, when you go into a sports book, technically you do not have to give them any information at all. What you do have to do is tell them what game you want to bet and give them cash for a ticket, in exchange for a ticket, and then later on down the road, if your ticket wins, you bring the ticket back to the counter and they give you cash. So that's all nice and wonderful. And in theory, it works beautifully, but then you obviously run into the issue of if you start betting and winning consistently, if you cash in too many tickets at once, you run into tax issues, and then you will be identified. And the sportsbooks want to know who the good bettors are, who the winning bettors are, because they don't really want to take action from them. And in some states, they can just cut you off and say you're no longer allowed to bet here. In other states, they can't cut you off, but at the same time, they can reduce the max amount they'll allow you to bet to, I don't know, $50, $25, $5. Depends where you live. But the sports books do want to know everything about you as much as possible as their customer. They will use rewards programs and player cards to track your in-person wagers. So if I went into the sports book in person and I said I wanted to bet $50 on the Steelers, and they say, "Oh, do you have a player's card?" And I'll say no, and they'll say, "Do you want one?" Or if you say yes, and they'll say, "Oh, you'll get a free drink with your player's card." So you give them your card. That tracks your bets. The sports books they'll have kiosks, and depending where they are, and depending what state you live in, where you can go and place, for those of you who've been to OTB, instead of going to the counter, you can go to a kiosk and place a bet and put your money in and get a ticket and get your change on a ticket and then go cash out later. So you don't have to talk to anybody. You don't have to give any information. What they do is they limit the amount you can bet at a kiosk without giving any information. Now, if the kiosk is in a sports book, they may make you put your player's card in to make the bet. Or they may limit, without a player's card, you can only bet $50 on a game through the kiosk or whatever. So what the sportsbooks want to do is they really want to steer you to online wagering or what's called mobile wagering whenever possible. They want, not only can they track your betting, they can track your IP address, and obviously with online you have to give them your personal information like your name, address, picture ID like your driver's license, and boom, they know who you are, what your credit rating is, how likely you are to redeposit, all those things. And that's both good and bad. I mean, if you're a new bettor and you're just starting out, and they'll give you lots of little promos that can help you earn an extra $50 here or there, a $50 free bet on a Sunday NFL game. Those are nice little perks. But here in New York, we're not going to have any online wagering, so it's all going to be about in person. But if you're interested in doing this as a casual bettor only, and maybe you don't even care about if you make money or not, sign up for the rewards. Show your card whenever possible. Get max benefit out of it. If you're trying to improve as a sports bettor and become a profitable sports bettor, you really need to consider how much you can bet without giving away any information. That is going to keep you from getting limited by the sports book. And finally, like I said before, sports books want to know if you're a good bettor or not, or a good earner. When I say good earner, I mean an earner for them. Are you likely to redeposit? Are you going to make bad bets? In sports books will know based on the closing line of the game whether you beat the closing line or not if they're tracking you. So they know if you'll be a long-term winner or loser, even though you might have won some of those bets with closing line value just on dumb luck. And I miss closing line value on bets all the time. I bet almost every day, but you try to strive for that closing line value, and it doesn't hurt to miss closing line value once in a while if you want to keep your account active. That's all I'm going to say about that. All right, let's move on to the second half of this topic, sharing your picks. Now, I want to quickly read this. This is what inspired me to talk about this. It is a tweet from Rufus Peabody, who's a professional sports bettor. And he says, hypothetical, if a bettor decided to publicly release picks for free to everyone, would it be okay for them to include their betting history prior to publicly releasing picks and their official record, provided it was independently audited by a top 10 accounting firm? Discuss. He's trying to prove a point, and he phrases his question poorly. But he's talking about whether it's okay for sports bettors to share their picks. Whether I'm not talking about touts that are selling picks, but just sports bettors that share their picks and keep a public record, which is something that I do. And I understand that it is very difficult to prove in an ironclad way that you can you have a record that has not been fiddled with. It's very hard unless a third party automatically tracks your wagers, and there's almost no. There are services out there that allow you to track your wagers, but there's almost nobody willing to do that without you paying them exorbitantly. So it's the question's kind of a moot point, but it brings up what I want to talk about. It is sharing your picks. Is it a good or bad thing? And when I say sharing your picks, I mean whether you post them online or you have coffee with your friends on Saturday morning and you say I'm betting on this game on Sunday, and or whether you just keep your picks to yourself and your methodology to yourself and you don't share it with anybody, which I think ultimately is not a worthwhile endeavor, because you can always improve as a sports bettor. And believe me, there are some very high-level groups of sports bettors that stay in contact regularly and share each other's expertise, but their goal is not to share it with everyone. So let's look at this. As a beginning bettor, there is little downside to sharing your picks. And like I said, you're just starting out. You want as much information as possible. And if you're not a stats person and you don't know where to look online, you need to seek out other people that are interested in the same event that you are. If you're betting on the Syracuse game on Saturday, you need to find other sports bettors who are actually putting money on the game and not just talking about it, and find out who they're with and why, and et cetera, et cetera. So I feel like even when I started sports betting, I did put my picks online. In the beginning, I wasn't very good, and people on Twitter were like, "You're not very good at this." And, my feelings were hurt for a little bit, but I got over it, and I just got better. I just worked harder and learned from other people, whether I use the power of the internet to find information to help me improve. And there's a couple of really good books on sports betting that are out now, and there's lots of stuff that's just on the internet it's garbage, and there's some stuff, if you can wade through everything, that's very good, and it'll help you improve. But sharing your thought process, I don't think is a bad idea at all, because if somebody disagrees with you, they may provide insight that will help you become a better wagerer. Seek out others that will share picks, especially if they have a reputation of being knowledgeable. Same thing. It's like you're looking for the smartest guy in the room or the smartest gal in the room, and they'll help you get better. They'll help you make smart bets, but they will save you from making bad wagers. And saving those bets is just as important to building your bankroll as the smart bets that you place. As you get more successful and move up in limits, you may reach a point where sharing is less desirable. So let's say that you get into whatever sport is your sport, NBA or whatever, and you start killing it. And all of a sudden you went from betting $50 a game, and now you're up to $800, $1,000 a game, and everybody wants to know who you're on. Who do you like in this game? What do you think about this player? If this player doesn't play, are you going to bet on the game? Well, there comes a time when you betting $1,000 on this game it is not worth it to give out information to your friends that are betting $50 on the game. Once you've made your bet and you've put your position down, in my opinion, it shouldn't matter if you give out your pick, because you've already put your money in. The market is set. The odds are set on your wager. The market may move, and your friends may not get as good a number as you, but if they want to know what you bet, you can tell them. So after the bet's been placed, to me, there's no point in hiding. But if you have not gotten your bet down, you may want to, withhold your information to other people, whether they're friends or public or whomever, until you're able to make your wager. And again, this is assuming that you're betting upper limits and you're betting with a profit motive, and so on and so forth. So this is how I think about it as I'm summing up everything as a whole. And I'm talking about keeping your picks private, keeping your betting activity private, so other people don't take advantage of your knowledge and cut you out of the market. So in my opinion, as it says right on the screen here, the continual learning curve of betting, sports betting, makes keeping picks private mostly worthless over time. And what I mean by that is, you remember, those of you who have not seen my episode on the continuous learning curve of sports betting, it's on YouTube. You can check it out. or on fingerlakes1.com. And, if you build a model that's successful against the market over time, it will become less successful as the market catches up or changes, rule changes, et cetera, blah, blah, blah. So the continual learning curve of sports betting is adjusting your model to keep ahead of the market or keep up with the market. And because so few people are really able to do that well, keeping your picks private really doesn't matter after a certain amount of time. Now, in today, here and now, maybe it is. If you are betting the market limits in your favorite sport, whether it be, golf or NASCAR or CFL in my case, it can hurt you giving away that information if you haven't already got your wager down. But over time, it really doesn't matter, because if you don't adjust your model, your picks are going to become less advantageous. So I feel like there's a happy middle ground here. I'm just going to sum it up that way. There's a happy middle ground between sharing information. You can share information without giving away your secret sauce or giving away your real, true advantage. And now, if people that are at the highest end of sports betting, the upper echelon, that run in packs and syndicates, and they have a team of bettors that all bet together, that's a whole different story. I'm talking about, do you and your Twitter buddies, DM each other, and should you share your pick or not? And it really depends. It depends on how high up on the food chain you are and how hard it is for you to get your bet down. And but all things considered, I think there should be no problem with sharing your wager and what odds you got, what point spread you got. Sometimes you beat the closing line, sometimes you don't. You can't do it 100% of the time. So I feel like it behooves you to share, because if you share, you're likely to get reciprocal information, and that is going to help you become a better sports bettor. Again, speaking of beginner to intermediate sports betting, not talking about the upper echelon of professional betting. So that's going to do it for the sportsbook lesson today. I hope that was helpful. I kind of jumped around a little bit. But let's move right on into Major League Baseball on Friday. And we got a full slate of games. One afternoon game, we have the Mets at the Cubs. Cubs are 0.74 run favorites, minus 164. Pretty steep odds for that favorite, and that's going to be a pass for me. Then we have the Braves at the Nationals. Nationals favored by 1.05 runs. Strasburg going tonight, minus 139. That's a good line for that big of a favorite. But I think there's better value on the board. The Astros are slight favorites, 0.12 runs, basically a coin flip, plus 145 at the Yankees, minus 158. So the Yankees have 6-game winning streak, and they are, on a tear. The model doesn't consider that. The model looks at the arbitrary statistics of the players and the pitching and the types of the bullpen usage and things like that. So my model says these teams are very evenly matched. So I would take the plus 145. Marlins plus 195 at Phillies, 0.75 run favorites, minus 213. That game has pretty much no value. Plus 195 is good for the. If you're getting maybe 225 on the Marlins, that would be considered taking that game. Padres 0.14 run favors, plus 104 at the Pirates, minus 112. And the Pirates are one of those teams that just they'll score a bunch of runs and then they'll struggle to score runs for a few games. There's really not much value on that game. Tigers plus 169 at Indians, 0.67 run favorites, minus 184. Once again, no value on either side there. And here's a very interesting game. Blue Jays plus 301 at the Red Sox, 2.45 run favorites, minus 335. Chris Sale going tonight. He has not been great this year. He has been okay. They have The Red Sox have not given him really good support. But his ERA is like, I think about 4 or 4.5. Boy, the Blue Jays getting plus 300. That's like, that doesn't, plus 300 does not happen very often in Major League Baseball anymore. You have to wonder about, that. But I do think this game is going to go over. Both of these teams can score runs in bunches. So that's what I really like there. But obviously taking the Red Sox is a no-no here. You don't want to bet those heavy odds. And then the Angels, 0.55 run favorites, minus 115 at the Cardinals, plus 106. Angels are also on a tear. Mike Trout is on a tear. It's a good pitching matchup, but not enough value. It's not bad value, but not enough value to take the Angels there. Let's see what we got for the rest of the games. We have the White Sox plus 129 at the Rangers, 0.91 run favorites, minus 139. Again, very good value on the minus 139. Not the best value on the board, so we're probably going to pass there. Reds, 0.53, a half a run favorite, plus 116 at the Brewers, minus 126. The Reds had put up a bunch of runs yesterday. Let's see if they can do it again. Twins, 0.2 run favorite, minus 160 at the Royals, plus 147. So the model has this is kind of a coin flip game. And Royals getting plus 147 is really good. If it was over, 150 or 160, that would be very, very attractive to me because it's pretty close to a coin flip game. It's a division game. Teams usually compete well in their own divisions. Giants plus 122 at Diamondbacks, 0.96 run favorites, minus 132. Very good value on the Diamondbacks there. The Giants, they seem to do well against the Dodgers and pretty crappy against everybody else. The Rays, 0.39 favorites, minus 110 at the A's, plus 102. Good value on the Rays, not great value on the Rays. Rockies, plus 179 at the Dodgers, 1.38 runs favorites, minus 195. Again, not much value there. And then the Orioles at the Mariners, there's no line out at this time. I have the Mariners at 0.63 run favorites. So that's it for the baseball schedule. And before we get to the baseball picks, of course, we have to look at the CFL Week 2. And Friday night, we have the BC Lions at the Edmonton Eskimos. Mike Riley playing for BC, going back to play against his former team. Both of these teams are good offensively. The Eskimos probably have one of the worst defenses in the league. The total is 55.5. It could go over. I don't like that enough. I kind of have a semi-hard fast rule is if the over-under gets above 57, I bet the under. And like last night, if the over-under gets below 45, I bet the over. And that's kind of on the borderline there. If it went up to like 58, I'd probably bet the under. I do like BC. Their head coach is a defensive coordinator, so I feel like he'll do a better job than Montreal did last week. And then the Tiger Cats at the Argonauts. Argonauts had a bye in week 1. They're 3.5 dogs at home. The total's 52.5. I feel like this could go under. Simone Lawrence, the all-star linebacker for the Ticats, is suspended. Argonauts at home with a week rest to prepare for this game. I feel like it's a no-brainer to take the Argos here. I do lean towards the under in this game, but I don't like a play on that. So let's wrap things up with my picks. And we've got on Friday night the Reds money line plus 116. And then I'm going to take the Astros against the Red Hot Yankees money line plus 145. Got the Blue Jays and the Red Sox over 8.5 runs. I feel like that's going to be a lot of runs scored there. Minus 107. And then I'm going to take the BC Lions on the money line on Friday, plus 135. That's tonight. And then tomorrow night, the Argos at home, plus 3.5, minus 104. So that's it for the show. Still managed to finish pretty close to on time. Sorry I started late. Play the outro music for you. Hopefully we will get some winners, and we'll see you next time. Take care, everybody.